Welcome back to class, and today we're looking at polysaccharides. If you have not subscribed to this page, I will encourage you to go back and subscribe to this page. Now we'll talk about polysaccharides. There are two types of polysaccharides. Don't forget, polysaccharides are made up of 10 or more sugar units or 10 or more monosaccharides. And polysaccharides that are made up of a single class of monosaccharides, for example, polysaccharides that are made up of glucose only are called homopolysaccharides, and polysaccharides that are made up of various classes of monosaccharides, maybe glucose, fructose, glucose, maltose, they are called heteropolysaccharides. And examples of homopolysaccharides, you have starch, you have glycogen, and you have cellulose. Without much ado, let's look at homopolysaccharides. Now, the first type of polysaccharide is called, we're looking at it, it's called starch. And what you have to understand about starch is that starch is the storage form of carbohydrate in plants. Now, before I proceed, have you ever wondered why when you boil certain foods like maybe cassava, potatoes, some parts of those foods are well cooked, while some other parts appear or taste raw? Have you ever wondered why? Now, that is because starch is made up of two distinct molecules, that is amylose and aminopectin. Now, the difference between amylose and aminopectin is that amylose is made up of mostly straight chains linked by an alpha-1,4 glycosidic bond, which enables it to be destroyed easily when placed in a solution due to its straight chains, as opposed to aminopectin, which is composed of many branched chains and is linked by an alpha-1,4 and an alpha-1,6 glycosidic bond. Now, its branched nature makes it to be more stable in solution. And guess what? Majority of starchy products are composed mainly of aminopectin than amylose. That explains why when you boil certain foods like cassava, potatoes, especially when you don't boil them for long, majority of the parts of that cassava may taste uncooked. That is because majority of that starch is aminopectin, which has mostly branched chains, as opposed to amylose, which have straight chains. And what you have to understand about starch is that small unit of starch is called dextrins. That said, we are done with starch, and the next thing we'll be looking at is glycogen. Now, as opposed to starch, which is a storage form of carbohydrates in plants, glycogen is a storage form of carbohydrates in animals, and it is stored in the liver and muscle. Now, what we have to understand about glycogen is that it is highly branched, which makes it very stable in solution or in uncomfortable environments. Now, and it is composed of the dextrose glucose linked by an alpha-1,4 and alpha-1,6 glycosidic bond. I forgot to emphasize on it. Starch also is made up of the alpha-dextroglucose, and glycogen is made up also of the alpha-dextroglucose. Now, if you want to know what alpha glucose means or dextrose glucose means, go back to our page and follow the class on anomerism of sugars. It will be explained explicitly to you. So that said, glycogen is made up of glycogen is linked by an alpha-1,4 and alpha-1,6 glycosidic bond, and it's composed predominantly of alpha dextrose glucose. Don't forget, it's highly branched, which makes it more stable. The last class of the homopolysaccharides we'll be looking at is called cellulose. Now, have you ever wondered why as human beings, when we consume vegetables, our physique is more greenish in nature, or it's more greenish in color, as opposed to when we eat other foods like other starchy products? Now, that is because the first thing, aside from the fact that we lack the enzyme cellulose that is necessary for digestion of cellulose, the sugar in cellulose is a beta dextrose glucose sugar, which cannot be absorbed by man, which makes it difficult for man to absorb or digest cellulose, making our physique looks green. That greenish nature means we have sent out all what we consume, or all what is in that cellulose, nothing has been absorbed. And one thing you have to understand about cellulose is that it forms the supportive tissues of plants, and it is linked by a beta-1,4 glycosidic bond. So that is what you have to understand about cellulose. And the reason why most ruminants consume mainly plants and they don't experience the same things because they have the enzyme cellulobiase that aids in the digestion of cellulose, as opposed to man, which or who lacks that enzyme. I believe you have learned a lot, and I want to encourage you to subscribe to this page. Don't forget to follow for more.